right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I got my main man, Scott Ostrowski here, one of our neighbors down the street.
Absolutely.
Farmers insurance guy in town and longtime buddy of mine. So
yeah, very much, very blessed to be able to go ahead and have this conversation with you.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you stopping by. So we always get this question because we work kind of hand in hand with a lot of similar clientele, right? We kind of run parallel as far as homeowners insurance, fire insurance, right? A lot of stuff that adds up. That's definitely Scott's wheelhouse. We're not super familiar with it. We're familiar with on the outside looking in on how to facilitate and get the ball down the field for clients. But it's also great to kind of hear from you the source, the horse's mouth, if you will, on what to look out for, expectation from just literally a simple single-family home, condo purchase, whatever it's going to be, all the way out to, hey, I want a property on 10 acres that's maybe far away from a fire department or far away from municipalities. Right. So
that's a wonderful wide swath for me to go ahead and take a swing at. But yeah, so regardless if it's inside walls policy for a condo that maybe the HOA's master policy is going to pay for the fire insurance if there is a loss for the building, but everything for the contents inside, for that condo owner, they would be responsible for. And then a farm and ranch that's 250 acres off on Washtenaw Road. Regardless of the different types of risks, we're always going to make sure that similar to your profession, that you're going to make sure that it's in the client's best interest. We have our due diligence, just like as you guys are required in real estate. But bottom line is that we want to get the best premium price, making sure that it's not at the risk of coverage or the needs of that of that client.
So in a nutshell, making sure nothing's lacking, right?
Correct. Comprehensive.
100%. One thing I hear from a lot of not just folks in your space and insurance, but also attorneys that I've worked with alongside for many years is you can't ever have too much insurance. Right.
That's Jay saying that.
Right. I'm not. This is not a bit. I've been told this.
However, there is credence in the fact that you get what you pay for.
Sure, 100%. But just making sure, hey, all T's have been crossed, all I's dotted. Making sure that when that situation occurs, you're not left with the bag or even half the bag holding you're covered, right?
And then one of the advantages of working so closely with Jay over the years is not only on the professional but on the personal level. There's some things that although we like to have fun with no matter what, right? We're always going to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the client. And some of the tongue-in-cheek stuff between Jay and I, right, wrong, or indifferent, I think that's the way I like the relationship. I'll let Jay discuss his stuff.
We keep it fun.
Keeping it real.
But I think this is a good way to summarize it as well, is there's not a one box or one shoe fits all approach, right?
Yes, and especially over the last 4 or 5 years, in the state of California, there's so many major carriers that for home insurance that they won't even write business anymore. They're non-renewing, and that's been unfortunate for many of ours in our hometown area here. Fortunately, that Farmers is not one of those, and if Farmers doesn't accept that risk, then we can broker out as well.
Sure.
So so that's one of the fortunate things. But prices have gone up though for insurance, and it has to be taken into consideration.
Absolutely, much like everything else, everything seems to be trending upward, right? That's true. For sure.
That is true.
And a fun topic that we talked about, because I know we deal, especially in this marketplace here in particular, we're dealing with a wide array of properties. We might deal with a house in Avila or Pismo Beach, right? And we have a little coastal community house, maybe even oceanfront. Or you have, your single cul-de-sac, single family home, or your house on 10 acres or even more, like we've discussed before. One question that comes up, because I know we have a lot of ranch and country folk that we deal with and we cater to here in this marketplace. Let's say one thing that always comes up is fire insurance. Right, that's a big question, and and from what I've gathered, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I've been told in many instances, the further you are away from municipalities, from let's say a fire department or someone that can service a fire, especially if let's say you're out on the 166 or something way out there, right? That you have a policy that's going to cover, and in many instances, tell me if I'm wrong, sometimes if a company is not willing to cover that exact policy for that property, they say, hey, the risk is too high. Is there a possibility, let's say, blending maybe two policies where one might pick up the deficiencies of the other?
That's all, folks.
Deficiencies of the other, or overlap, right? And how common is that? And what are your opinion on executing like that?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, for the state of California, we have what we call the last chance, and that's California Fair Plan. And many of you have heard that. And basically, in rudimentary ways, it's a state nonprofit where if you can't find insurance as an insurance professional, they're your last resort, and you have to extinguish all other opportunities.
Gotcha.
So if you come to that point, that policy through the California Fair Plan only offers limited peril cover, so fire, wind, hail, but it's not comprehensive. So that's where you're talking about blending in what we call a wraparound plan to make sure all the other coverages are met with those deductibles, and also the other coverage limits for personal property and and loss of use and all those other items that Fair Plan won't cover.
Absolutely. So a fun way to kind of say fun, use that word loosely. Maybe not too much fun, but a creative way. That's a better way to put it. A creative way to piece together a policy where some property purchasers might think, hey, I'm up the creek without a paddle, like I don't have any options, right? So there's ways to get creative and tailor something custom for folks.
There's always something for somebody, that's for sure.
Now, what is, and this is something I'm curious to personally, what is a policy that a homeowner might want to entertain beyond just your typical homeowner's policy? Something that provides a lot of value, but people, it may not be like on the fresh, tip of their mind of saying, hey, like I need to explore this policy and why.
Yeah, probably the biggest concern that I have as an insurance professional over the last 9 years is liability coverage.
Gotcha.
And liability is, fairly inexpensive, and there's depending on and of course, with not being a lawyer or a fiduciary, and I can't professionally advise, that's my understanding. Depending if you have a trust and the type of trust that you may have, which you always should check with your legal professional.
Of course.
And you may need an umbrella that provides liability insurance all of your assets as an opportunity as well.
Gotcha. And let's expand a little bit on the word liability there. So liability on assets. Let's say I own a house, someone falls and bumps their head that was not invited to my property. Let's say someone stumbles on my property, they hit their head. Does that fall in the guise of that liability policy?
Can be. So yeah. So if nothing else, what the insurance industry has taught me is to stay in my swim lane. So we can hypothesize about claims, but every claim is different and unique, and it depends on that open claim. With that being stated, though, I'm working with our claims professionals for several years. The liability would be, yes, if they try to prove that it was your fault, if they slipped, fell, and bumped their head, and they got hurt, injured, or unfortunately, if they were killed. There I say that.
They passed on the property.
Thank you. Right.
There we go.
We'll have to edit that one.
But you hope doesn't happen.
Right. So for the liability portion of that, if it's proven it's your fault, that's where you would need that coverage. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. See all the fun little things. I'm just reaching in the dark there for the little tidbits for everybody. But gosh, I think that's it. This has been great. I just wanted to touch base on this because this is kind of like I said, a parallel business category that we work alongside. And we see surface level, but we don't quite know the ins and the outs, and I'm sure prospective property owners or even current homeowners right now, the wheels are turning, saying, "Gosh, do I have enough coverage now for my property? Do I have enough fire coverage? Darn it, the wheels are turning." But questions? Always come holler at my man here. He'll be a great resource for you. And of course, on the real estate end, you can let us know. But guys, as always, appreciate you tuning in. My brother, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, guys, thanks so much.
Bye.